our reach is pretty good already because we got a really smart guy coming up here next. Lindsay, I know you've met him in passing. Miguel, you haven't gotten a chance to meet him. But our good friend Kevin Lindsey and the grand poobah of all things technical.
I love that term, poobah.
I like it too.
Hi, Grand Poobah.
My grandfather
Who shares my name.
My grandfather was called the Big Kahuna. I kid you not. They called him the Big Kahuna. The manager of technical service, which I think is a much more impressive. Only thing could be more impressive than the Big Kahuna or the Grand Poobah is the manager of technical service at TravelCenters of America.
Poobah on your business card, please.
Yeah, the TSP, Technical Service Poobah. Hey, Kevin Lindsey, we got a whole bunch of people here. I know you couldn't make it down to the city of New Orleans, but Lindsay Lawler and Miguel Howe are joining us this morning. How are you, sir?
Well, I am good. Just busy as a bee here the last couple of weeks. You know, we're doing our internal top tech competition this week. We're actually, I can look out of this office here in the training center and out in the shop. We got 20 of our best technicians out here doing their best already this morning. So.
Holy moly! I want to set a couple of things up here. I want to start. We're going to get to your service here first. We're going to take care of your service here in a second. But I also want to make a point of talking about the event that you're at and what that's all about. First of all, Miguel Howe is here, and he's a good friend of the show. And one of the things he specializes is in helping service members make that important transition from the military into the private, public, philanthropic, whatever purpose-driven life they choose to kind of serve in. How long were you in the Air Force, and how long did it take you to reacclimate to being back in the land of the living? Like Dave Nemo simply walked down the street and went and got back on the radio. But what about your situation?
Well, you know, to be honest, I was in the Air Force for 6.5 years, and I was working on trucks before I went in the Air Force. I worked on trucks while I was in the Air Force, and when I got out, I worked on trucks. Actually, I didn't. My first job after I got out, I was actually working for a Pontiac dealership. And for those of you that don't know, a Deuce and a Half and a 1989, 1990 Grand Am are not quite the same vehicle. There's a few differences.
One or two.
One or two. And it was a little bit of a struggle for me, especially at an automotive dealership, because they all pay flat rate. And, you know, I'd been in the military for 6.5 years. Now, you know, quite honestly, I was pretty quick fairly quick at fixing things. But I was dealing with a lot of electrical and body components that, you know, I wasn't necessarily that familiar with. So I kind of almost starved to death when I first got out. So I was expecting a huge paycheck my first 2-week paycheck afterwards, because I had worked 90 hours. My paycheck ended up being like $89. I was like, this is not going to work for me.
Oh my God! Well, that's the other thing too.
My dinner cost more than that last night.
But that's the truth, actually. That's actually the truth. But I
split everything.
I know, and that was a split check. But that's really the kind of the key thing here too, Miguel. I mean, Kevin makes a good point. A lot of people often don't understand the economics of something, and a lot of places, by the way, won't tell you. Because they can't wait for that big look of surprise on your face when you open that envelope, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of sheltered costs out there, Kevin, right? When you take off the uniform, you didn't realize what you weren't paying for. And then there's this expectation, we're going to make a lot more money when we get out.
Yeah, and that's an important part of the equation.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. So I want you to kind of tell our listeners, by the way, and we've talked about it before, but I wanted you to go in a little detail because yesterday we got a chance, Lindsay, to talk about there's a shortage in diesel mechanics. It's just out there. I don't know how much you're seeing it, Kevin, but so much of what you do is not just about kind of, you know, working on maintenance policy, making sure that there's a consistency among how service is kind of rendered, but you're also kind of always looking for talent. Tell people about the event that you're at with a little bit of deep dive detail.
Well, what we do is we hold every year we have different levels of technician within our organization, but we open up a basically you have to test in. So we develop a 100-question test for our current ASE certified master techs within our network. They go out, take the test, and then we select the top, usually around 20, somewhere between 20 to 25 out of that list that scored the highest. And we also, if we have technicians that participated in state competitions and won their state, they're also invited to Top Tech because they already have an automatic pass to Super Tech at TMC in the fall. So from their winning their state. So we have those. So we generally take a team of 10 to 12 technicians to Super Tech. So what we'll do is we bring them up. We do our own internal competition. And, we try to promote this because, we want to build up our technicians because quite honestly, a lot of your listeners listen to this and TA is a truck stop. But, I'm in our truck service division and, we provide a service and we try to promote that. Our technicians pay for my salary, to be on the payroll. Any one of us that works within my company in truck service, our technicians out there actually pay our salary. So we try to promote them. We try to do that. Our recruiters will use this event as a recruiting tool to young technicians. Say, hey, here's how you can do. You can, promote through this company. How well you can do, the exposure you can get, and things like that. It's a good process. It just helps. And any of these tech competitions, whether it's Skills USA, the state tech competition, Super Tech. A lot of companies do their internal competitions and stuff. OEMs do tech competitions. It's really about promoting the technicians in our industry. And I got to say, I love it. It's one of those things I think is great. And a lot of times we do it. The state competitions coincided with the driver competitions as well. So that way you kind of joined at the hip. We're all in this together. The drivers can't drive the trucks if no one's maintaining them, and the techs can't work on the trucks if no one's driving them. So we need each other, right? So we're one big happy family.
Well, it's the idea to create that, though, because one of the things that is so difficult, a lot of people don't understand, and since we're talking so much about military over the next couple of days here on the show and with all of our friends who are gathering here at the studio, is that, one of the other things is that culture is so important. Creating a culture and a healthy family is a good culture as well, and a healthy business is a good culture as well. But part of this is the fact that, Bob Costello at the ATA had that epiphany, his road to Damascus moment when he realized it wasn't just about pay, it's about lifestyle. Do I actually have, while I'm making a living, do I have enough time to have a life? And, Lindsay is in studio here for the first time, Kevin. It's the first time that Lindsay Lawler has walked into the new Degas House studios. And I can see in her mood that she's so delighted to be here because she felt kind of shut out from the fun that we were having someplace else.
Nobody let me play in the sandbox until today, Kevin.
Well, hey, did they let you grab one of those cigar box guitars and play it?
No.
Other way. Look at the other way. Look at the other way.
Oh, I see it. I see it, Kevin. I'm gonna pick it up.
Yeah.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Y'all are gonna be mad. Kevin told me about that.
But the truth of the matter is,
sorry, Jimmy.
No, trust me, it's okay. Matt Beach is going to be here later on in the next couple of days. He's bringing his cigar box guitar as well too. But Kevin, that's the big thing is that you guys actually build these events partially as a team building exercise. But if you can't have fun on the job, people don't realize how toxic it is when you can't have fun on the job. I mean, I'm one of those lucky people. I think you are as well too. Miguel is somebody as well. Dre, on the other hand, literally the beatings will continue, Dre, until the morale improves around here. But
get back in your cage.
But that being said, it's so important, isn't it? I mean, that these kind of things are put together not just to kind of determine talent and use them as training tools, but to actually give people a genuine sense of fun, right?
Absolutely. And that's a great point. And the whole segment, especially transitioning out of the military into civilian, that's one of those things. There's so many jobs out here, so many different careers that, people become mundane and going to work and everything. But when you can just inject just a small amount of, hey, we can have fun doing this, because that morale building, that is something that really, I really embraced in the military, because, we did that as a unit. It was a whole bunch of us mechanics, and everything. But when we had a break every day, we had a basketball court built in our maintenance compound, and we would go out and play basketball. Of course, we doubled that. That was some of our PT time and stuff like that we could count. But we would, and we had good little games going. Actually had some pretty talented people playing at one time. So
I'm going to pick on.
But those things really picked up the morale in our day-to-day mundane work that we were doing. Trying to keep equipment up and going, and we would get called on the exercises. You work for 12-hour shifts or whatever, and then after all that's over, you go back to normal, and then you go back to doing that, and it kind of makes it all worth it. It gives it something to it more than just doing a job. Right?
Yeah, Kevin, you're bringing a smile to my face, brother. I mean, you're taking me right back to all those times in the team room, or those down hours on deployment, and you're just shooting the breeze with the guys and the gals there, and all those things that you talk about that we do, right, to build that camaraderie, to build that morale. But it's, again, Jimmy, back to what you said before, having a life while you're making a living, right? And so it's not just when you leave work, it's while you're at work. And so what Kevin, what you just described there, right? It's about team building, it's about culture, it's morale, it's about our individual quality of life. And what's the most important thing is one of the most important things is who you spend your time with, right? And to be able to have fun and choose joy while you're doing meaningful work, purpose and belonging, man. That's what I'm hearing you talk about, Kevin. What you saw in the Air Force and what you see now where you're at.
Absolutely.
The thing about anything, and I'll use maintenance as an example, but one of the problems people often have when they get a work order to do anything. My brother, who was a contractor for a long time, a weatherization specialist, he would see people would make these promises to their clients. They're going to get something done, and he's like, yeah, you can do it in 2 days. He's like, they said, why are you scheduling for 3? And he said, I need a day of decompression. And he said, well, what do you mean? He would be like, well, I want to walk the work not slowly, but at a pace, so that when I get to what should be the finishing moment, I have a night to sleep on it in case I've missed something. And he would talk about that, the idea that if you're racing through work, even if you can do it quickly, sometimes it's better to slow down a little bit, and sometimes it's better if everybody knows that Friday is basketball and barbecue day. And everybody on Wednesday starts thinking about the fact that the last hour of work, the boss is going to go, you know what, shut it down. It's 4 o'clock, shut it down. We're all going to the basketball court, get the grills out, get people down here, let's get fired up. And that people have something to look forward to. And it goes back to the living life that we've been talked about, the idea, and it becomes almost really funny, the living life, a life that is spent living, making a living. You make the living to actually have that life. And that's what's so important to remind people, too, that if you can articulate to your customer what you're doing, they understand it. I need a good night's sleep, and so does my team. We will finish the job tomorrow. And sometimes slowing things down is the fastest way to speed them up. Does that make any sense, Kevin, or am I just like using the words living life and a whole bunch in rapid succession?
No, that makes perfect sense to me, because, it seems kind of an archaic saying or something, but there's so many times, especially nowadays, because we're so intertwined with everything around us. We got this information box that we all have in our hands, and it's in our face. There's so much input going into us that sometimes we forget to just look up, look around. Stop, smell the roses. Just look around and enjoy the moment sometimes, because we've got so much to do, right? I think it's so critical, because if you don't, you end up with burnout. And I can tell you, when you burn out, and this industry, oh my goodness, the trucking industry, it's 24/7 nonstop. It's always going. There's always changes. There's always something new, and it can consume you and burn you out very quick. you have to be able to just kind of step back and take a breath. You know?
Hey, Kevin, I think what you're saying, I hear you talking about is that as leaders, we set the tone for our organization, and sometimes that means we have to hit that accelerator, but the other times we have to pump the brakes, even for the good of the team and good of the individuals, right? And
to me, that good leader is going to recognize, hey, my team here, they look a little ragged. Let's slow this down. And then in 2 days, we'll be going twice as fast as we are now, because we're at that point. There's a point there that you get to that you really do have to slow down in order to go faster. So.
One of my favorite lines I heard my brother on a work site. He had and it was so hot, and they were wet. They were insulating. They were insulating and weatherizing a house in New Orleans in the midst of the summer, and people were in the attic and on the roof, and it was really brutal. And he actually came outside. He had this big ice chest full of Gatorade and a whole bunch of other stuff. And he said, "You know what?" He said, "It is 2:00 in the afternoon in New Orleans, and this is an act of suicide right now." He said, "We need to move this job at the speed of fun." Mm-hmm. He said, and by the way, fun means getting it done, but it also means let's take a minute here, let's take a breath. Lindsay, would you do me a favor and head over to YouTube for a second and look at the chat screen, because our friend Marshall has something he wanted to share with us. I thought you might want to read that aloud so we can ask everybody the question out there, and maybe they can call in and answer that question. You see what I'm talking about?
I see what you're talking about. The people want to know. Marshall wants to know as well. Good morning, first of all, Marshall, my cigar smoking friend. Are you heading to New Orleans? Are you making your way here? I hope so. Marshall says that he's getting ready to roll out from Huntsville, Alabama, and wonders what casino he should pull up to tonight to be in New Orleans tomorrow morning. Well, what do you say? Well,
the question is, which route is he taking, right? I mean, is he going to come up the Gulf Coast? Because of the Gulf Coast, there's a whole bunch of great options in regards to from Biloxi and Ocean Springs and Gulfport all the way into the city of New Orleans. You got a suggestion, Dre?
No.
None whatsoever.
No,
not those places whatsoever. And by the way, just to let you know, Kevin, our friends Earl and Joan Noble tell you good morning, and our good friend Jerry Bowers says good morning as well to not only Earl and Joan, but to our good friend Kevin Lindsey, who joins us.
Jerry Bowers will be here tomorrow.
Jerry Bowers will be here tomorrow, and I'm going to be reading the lyrics of a very bad song that he apologizes for nothing, as he said in the kind of go-to thing. Kevin, the other thing is I wanted to ask you in regards to when you're onboarding people, and we talk a lot about training here. Do you find yourself in a position where you can recognize someone's talent and also recognize simultaneously when they're struggling and how to change strategies to reach them to get them up to speed as a technician? Once again, is my question making sense, or am I just making that longer than it has to be?
Well, it does make sense, but unfortunately, I don't get to see all of our new technicians, obviously, as they come on board, but our local managers do. So really the best thing I can do is try to equip our managers with the tools that they need to recognize those things, and that's something that we try to do. We try to develop. It's tough, I mean, with, 270 or so, maintenance shops at our truck stops across the country. It's really, that's a lot to handle, through a small group of people here that I work with. But we try to provide the tools that all of our managers need, to get this done. So, and to recognize, the talent and recognize when someone's struggling and what they can do. But, I keep an open line. They can always tell them, reach out to me anytime, and we'll talk about, see what we can do to help these people. I'll hold little calls with a small group of technicians at a site, have them come in the manager's office, talk about a specific issue that they're seeing that they don't understand or something, on a truck or on different trucks, and, certain things like that. I try to do that as much as possible.
It's interesting too, because you and Miguel have something else in common. Miguel in his military incarnation, and you now, in the sense that you guys had to be leaders of leaders. which is a very different kind of thing. It's like coaching in the NBA. You're not coaching the people who are, you're not coaching the foot soldiers. You actually have to engage with the men and the women who are going to be training those who need to be trained. And so you can only base your results based on their results, meaning that your results, you being able to report to the people above you and say, we're doing fine, is not a matter of you looking at the people who are doing the daily work. It's the people who are supervising the people doing the daily work. And that has its own different set of challenges, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely it does. You know, because, you know, not being directly involved with the actual hiring processes and stuff, you know, you kind of have to learn the managers. You have to learn that, to me, you always, a lot of it's geographical because, you know, this is a huge country we live in. There are so many different segments in areas of the country where, you know, certain, you know, English is a funny language. There's way too many words that mean the same thing. And so you have to kind of learn that local lingo so you can actually communicate properly with people in the area you're talking with.
Well, I'll tell you this right now about English. I've always made the joke that the reason why, you know, Shakespeare had a vocabulary of 27,000 words. And he made up about 6,000 of them, and I'm convinced he made up the ones he made up because he's like, would you please stop using the same word to mean 6 different things? I'll give you a new one. Please deal with this new word. Miguel, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, no, Kevin, it's funny you say that. So in our company, we do a lot of formal training. We do a lot of robust feedback over the course of the work, which I know you all do as well, and then we also do a mentorship program. And I was mentoring one of our young leaders just the other day, and she asked that very question. She's like, "Hey, she's making her own transition. She was working for USAID, and now she's coming into consulting." And she's like, "Hey, how do you be an effective communicator?" in going from, you know, government service into business. And that's the first thing I told her, is that it's language, that words matter, and the most confusing thing is the same word means different things in different places, in different operating environments. And then even you talked about the geography of it too, right? We were talking a little bit about that at the banter at the outset of the show this morning, right? What's the right way to greet a person? What's the right way to communicate with a person in a different part of the country?
We talked about that yesterday, Kevin. I'll give you a good laugh. That the only thing the Japanese and Deep South culture have in common is that unless somebody from the Deep South or Japan gives you a life-affirming, absolutely, completely clear yes, they mean no, which is my favorite thing about the Southerners that you meet. You know, it's
and kudzu.
Right? Nicely done. Nicely done,
Hey,
by the way.
I just want to say, I want to add to Kevin's, to Poobah and Kahuna or whatever all. I feel like truck whisper would be really good on your card as well. Just throwing that out, Kevin. The truck whisper.
Oh my God, that's kind of fantastic. We could like make him like a plenipotent and like give him somebody that walks into the room and basically says, "I introduce to you the manager of technical service, Poobah, truck whisperer, Big Kahuna, Kevin Lindsey."
Well, I say that because, just real quick, Kevin, I'm curious what you would say to people, the non-truck drivers out there, because you know I don't know much about torques and turbochargers and such, but I do know if something breaks down on my own vehicle, it really messes with the whole rhythm of my life, and that is also the same for obviously our drivers out there. So I'm just curious, real quickly, what you could say that would apply to both drivers. Real quick, I know we have a minute or two, but drivers, but also the people like me out there, to remind them something that we don't know about your job that will help us all get along together on the road, to sum it up here.
You know, to be honest, the whole truck whisperer thing, there's a little bit to that. Because it is, and it really goes down the actual technical knowledge that a good mechanic technician has to understand, the inner workings, and not only of an engine, but you know, of a transmission, how it all fits together in harmony to keep you in that rhythm of life you like to be in, Lindsay. So, you know, when it does break down, that's one of the issues that my side of this industry that's always struck me as strange, is because all I deal with is problems, right? Because
me too. Looking at you, Jimmy Mack.
No one ever.
You're a
wants to
healthcare
come
provider.
see us because no one wants to come see us because hey, my truck's running fine. I'm having a good time here. I just come to see you. No, they don't want to be there. So it is difficult, and to be honest with you, it is very difficult on a younger person nowadays to come into an environment where all they deal with is problems every day. But that's what we do, and it takes a special, and I'm using air quotes around that special word, to really enjoy doing the technician's role in our industry, because a lot of people call it a thankless job and everything, but I know it's not. I know too many drivers. I know too many, fleet owners and maintenance people that really do understand and do thank us a lot.
On the count of three, let's say thank you, Kevin. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Kevin.
By the way, Kevin Lindsey is the manager of technical service for TravelCenters of America. You can find them at ta-petro.com. My brother, thank you, too, by the way. There were other things to talk about, a little bit of the wrap-up of tires we didn't get to, but I asked Kevin to kind of indulge us since we had a couple of special guests in studio today. Thank you, Kevin, for making the time, and we'll talk to you again next Tuesday.
All right. Sounds good.